Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please click to subscribe. This is a crazy story that I'm surprised hasn't gotten more attention happening in this intersection behind me here in Florida. There was a UPS truck that was hijacked, a massive police chase and shootout. There were 2 innocent people killed, but this is the strange part. Guess who was arrested? Not the hijackers, they're dead. Instead, it was 4 police officers who were arrested and charged with manslaughter. Very unusual case. I'm gonna dig into it in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, so I'm in Miramar, Florida right now, which is just outside Fort Lauderdale. Super hot here, by the way, if I'm sweaty, like Florida summer, of course. But I wanted to come out here to this intersection because this was the scene of this really, really dramatic rush hour police shootout. And it all had to do with this UPS truck, this chaotic police-involved shooting. 2 suspects, they hijacked the UPS truck, kidnapped the driver, held him hostage in his own truck. And what followed was a 2-county police chase that ended in a huge shootout, again, right at the intersection behind me. It looked like something straight out of a movie. It was scary, it was deadly. I'm gonna get to in a second how the officers ended up as the ones charged with manslaughter. Again, think about that. Bad guys hijacked the UPS truck. How did the officers end up charged with manslaughter in a case that is ongoing? Gonna get into all of that in a second, but first I wanna show you dash cam video to kind of take you back to that moment, show you what happened. Dash cam video from one of the police cruisers.
Alright, you got this intermediate there, you gotta go back westbound, you turn back westbound. Back westbound, Miramar Parkway.
Back westbound, Miramar Parkway. Back westbound.
You guys, just be careful when he makes those U-turns that he's gonna take crank off rounds on you guys.
Alright, we're back out westbound. Flamingo now, westbound.
You get on the right shoulder on the grass.
What?
Flamingo now.
What? What? Huh? What? I just see somebody shooting, King, on the foot. Hey, what if I take it out?
So in the video that we just watched, it was obvious that there was a large police presence during the late afternoon pursuit, ended in traffic at the busy intersection, and just the enormity of that gunfire. In terms of the number of rounds that were fired and how long the shooting went on for, when it was over, 2 innocent people who were shot and killed in all of this. The kidnapped UPS driver, 27-year-old Frank Ordonez, and Richard Cutshaw, who was a 7-year-old driver, just sitting in the intersection, minding his own business in his car. This all happened back on December 5th, 2019. So this was 6 years ago. And fast forward to now, 6 years later, there are 4 people who are charged and awaiting trial right now. And again, not the 2 carjackers. They died from the gunfire that day. But instead, it is 4 police officers. The 4 police officers ended up getting charged. Jose Mateo, Leslie Lee, Richard Santiesteban, and Rodolfo Mirabel. They face charges of manslaughter with a firearm. The Broward State Attorney's Office said that after reviewing evidence and hearing testimony over several months, a grand jury indicted all 4 officers. And their serious charges. If convicted, the maximum possible penalty under Florida law is up to 30 years in state prison, and all 4 men have now pleaded not guilty. I want to dig deeper, though, before I get into sort of the analysis of why these 4 police officers were charged, whether that was the right thing. I want to dig deeper into the facts of the case. Basically, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and FBI conducted a lengthy investigation into the shooting. I was going over all the paperwork. There's this big report. Determined that 20 officers from multiple police agencies fired more than 200 rounds. Investigators reviewed body cam, dash cam, red light camera, aerial videos. There's a ton of video. There were a bunch of South Florida news stations that covered the shootout live on air, so they looked over all that video. Plus, they gathered videos from drivers' cell phones and interviewed dozens of civilian witnesses and also law enforcement officers. There was 911 calls, police radio communications. Really, they were trying to piece together how this incredibly complex and deadly situation, how all of it unfolded. As for the 2 innocent people who lost their lives on that day, you've got Frank Ordonez again and Richard Cutshaw. The medical examiner listed their manner of death as homicide. Investigators compared the ME's findings of their bullet wounds to an FBI lab report of the ballistics, and it actually found that Ordonez was hit by bullets fired from the guns of all 4 officers. So this part is important when we start talking about the officers charged. So let me repeat that. The ME's findings of their bullet wounds to an FBI lab report of ballistics. They did the investigation into this. And again, it found that Ordonez was hit by bullets fired from the guns of all 4 officers and Cutshaw from one of the officers. So it was the officers' bullets who ended up hitting the innocent people involved in all of this. Neither of the innocent men were shot by the suspects. And a quick side note about those 2 suspects. This is kind of the backstory. A little more than an hour before the shootout, they were actually involved in an armed robbery of a jewelry store in a different city. And as you can see in these pictures, police recovered a mask one of them was wearing, and then also jewelry and also cash. So after this a robbery at the jewelry store, the bad guys then hijacked the UPS truck. They go on the run in the UPS truck. Obviously, police are alerted at this point. They try to stop the UPS truck, but the bad guys are on the run at this point. They've got the UPS driver held hostage, and he's not going to stop. It didn't work. They're on the run. Okay, so some important points in the timeline from investigators. During the chase, and this was 18 minutes before the final shootout, there was a police radio communication that said, quote, "Subject with gun to the victim's head." And then just minutes later, according to police dispatch notes, "Attention all units, do not approach the vehicle." Again, attention all units, do not approach the vehicle. The subject has shot at units multiple times. And then at 5:35 p.m., there was this. He is boxed now. He is boxed in with all the traffic. Definitely no way out now. Not for him there. Have Pines and Miramar. Not let any traffic through on the intersection on Flamingo. That's his intersection where I am. Any units here, go to the intersection and stop all the traffic there. Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Crossfire, crossfire, crossfire. Seek cover, seek cover. So I want to give you a little more perspective of what this actually looked like when all of this was going down. I showed you the dash cam video from the patrol car, but I want to show you the perspective of just drivers who are in the area. And again, this is a major intersection in South Florida. So drivers who were just stopped, who were recording, and this will show kind of what it was like from their perspective.
Mira los helicópteros y todo. Ahí lo agarraron, ahí fue que lo agarraron. Mira, 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 mira cómo lo tapan por ahí, mira cómo lo tapan. Escúchalo, escúchalo. Sube la ventana, sube la ventana, sube la ventana, sube la ventana. Sube la ventana. Agáchate. ¿Qué pasó?
Lo mataron, mira, mira el tipo.
¿Lo mataron? Agáchate, papá, agáchate, agáchate. Agáchate, agáchate, agáchate. Agáchate, papá. Papá, agáchate, por favor. Papá, agáchate, por favor, agáchate. Agáchate, agáchate.
Oh shit! They're shooting! What the fuck?
Hands right now.
So really, really terrifying for everybody. Again, rush hour. Imagine people on their way home from school and work at this intersection. Terrifying for all of them. And check this out. A driver who was caught up in all this found a bullet casing on his daughter's car seat in his truck. Thankfully, she was not with him at the time, but it shows just like how crazy it all was out here. So definitely more innocent people could have been hurt. And as I mentioned, it ended up being that 4 police officers were charged because it was their bullets who ended up hitting the UPS driver who was innocent, and then also the innocent bystander, just the person who was out here in traffic. 3 of those officers are preparing to go to trial, and what's interesting is one of the officers, Jose Mateo, he is asking a judge to dismiss the charge against him using a legal argument based on Florida's Stand Your Ground law. So again, very unique case, different viewpoints here. Some people saying, you know, these officers didn't need to just start shooting like that when there were innocent people around. Others defending the officers, saying they were just doing their job. How is it possible that the police officers ended up being the ones charged? So to sort of sort this whole case out and understand why these officers were charged and if it's the right thing, I've now got Steve Moore with me, who is a former FBI special agent. Steve, thank you for joining me. You had a chance to review the video. There's a lot going on there. What's sort of your first impression here?
Well, my first impression is I looked at it from both as a responder and as the supervisor of the responders. I've had agents who were involved in shootings before, and I've had to respond to the scene. And there were a lot of things that troubled me about the shooting. I can remember one time one of my real good agents called, said he was involved in a shooting on a task force matter, went down there, and it was a similar thing where a bunch of officers were shooting at a vehicle that they thought was fleeing. And I asked this agent, when did you fire? And he said, I never did. And I said, why didn't you fire? And he goes, I didn't know why they were shooting. And that was the smartest answer I have ever heard. If he didn't feel an immediate threat to himself, he should not have fired. Even in support of other officers, you don't know what they're seeing or what their frame of mind is. And you really only shoot when you or another person are in grave danger. And so I guess what I saw here, Brian, is that I don't think 20 people felt their lives were in danger. I felt that likely this was a situation where other people are firing. We know these people have been shooting at us, or at least we've been told. And I believe it was kind of a group think. If they're firing, I'm firing. And but ironically, that doesn't mean that the officers who were charged were part of the groupthink. I think the officers who were charged, at least three of them, really had a belief, possibly had a belief that their lives were in danger.
It just seemed so chaotic watching the videos.
Was.
Like there wasn't really and I know in those situations there can't always be a plan, but it didn't seem like there was anyone sort of calling the shots with all of these officers.
And you're right, Brian. It was chaotic, and it was very unfortunate. I'll say that. But somebody was calling the shots. I mean, going through your listening to your video, you point out very clearly that somebody said, "Don't approach the truck," and there are several reasons for that. And I think what got me on that is, number one, somebody was trying to call the shots. Remember, it's not just a person in the precinct or in the police office there who is saying, don't do it. It's, you got your watch commanders, you've got your lieutenants, you've got a lot of people there who are making overall decisions. And so when they say don't approach the truck, I think that's important. But then they followed it up with, they've been firing at police officers. Well, at that point, the officers think, oh, they don't want me to get hurt. Therefore, I have to make my own choices out here as to my own safety. So if they had said, don't shoot, they're holding, or don't approach the truck, they're holding a gun to the suspect or to the victim's head, that's a different motivation not to approach the truck. And that may have changed. I am not saying that in the fog of war that anybody made a mistake in how they phrased that, but how it was phrased changed the equation in the mind of the officers, I believe.
What do you think about these charges, that four of them were charged with manslaughter? It seems unusual.
Yeah, it's extremely unusual. And Brian, I've got to give you both sides of the argument. That was about as unfortunate a way to end that chase as I can imagine. It is what every chase could devolve into. Chases get everybody's adrenaline up, and at every block you go, you add a police car to it, and at the end, you've got 30 cars. It looked like a fraternity convention. As the shooting was going on, people running around, walking around, and I am not saying that I would have done much differently, or hopefully done much differently than they did. But at the same time, the FBI was part of the investigation. The state of Florida was part of the investigation. Each department investigated their own people. Three of the of four officers who were involved in this did not get fired. So two of them are actually still on the force. So what you have is Miami-Dade said, not even a fireable offense for most of them. The FBI didn't get involved, although one could think they might get involved down the line. And the state of Florida, who did the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, did the overall investigation, and as you read in the report, submitted it to the state's attorney for prosecution if necessary. No, nobody decided to do it except the county in which this chase ended. It didn't start there, but it ended there.
So do you think it was wrong for them to charge the officers? What's your feeling?
I have to couch this. I think that the officers made the wrong choices. There was lack of fire discipline. There was really significant issues with how this was handled. But I don't think it rises to a crime. And that's hard for me to say because I don't want to give the public the idea that I'm defending police officers who essentially killed a hostage and one innocent bystander. But at the same time, if you prosecute police for mistakes that are made in the heat of battle, I think you're setting a precedent that could make the country a little bit less safe. I think you have to effectively discipline this. I think you have to deal with it, and maybe they might not be cut out to be police officers, but I don't see this as something you go to prison for.
So if you don't think manslaughter is an appropriate charge, do you think there should be another charge? I mean, where's the line?
I think what you're looking at is civil negligence. One thing we learned very quickly is that the families of victims really need to be brought back whole. And occasionally, when you've lost a family member, you are not in a state of mind that would be conducive to thinking out all aspects of the situation. So frequently there are loud voices from the families of innocent victims or the victims, the hostage themselves, who are saying, I want somebody to pay for this. And they are very loud voices. And the problem is the people who actually did this, the carjackers who shot at the jewelry store people, who shot at the police, their bullets were found in police cars. I mean, these guys were dangerous people, but they're dead now. And so the family has nobody to go after or to blame. And at that point, you go to anybody else who might have contributed to this. And so while I believe there was negligence, I believe it was not criminal negligence any more than a pilot, say, who has a plane on fire and lands long because he's got smoke in the cockpit and damages the airplane, or God forbid somebody's killed. How many pilots have been jailed for that? Again, we're talking different situations. Law enforcement has a deadly weapon. But at the same time, you don't see a lot of doctors who lose patients going to prison for malpractice, or airline pilots going to prison for a crash.
I'm just wondering, watching this, you've got the UPS driver held hostage,
Right.
and they just robbed the jewelry store. Why not just keep the police helicopter up and since this is so volatile, just say everybody back off. Let's follow them. Let's follow the UPS truck with the helicopter, and let's obviously the bad guys just want to get away. Let's save the UPS driver's life and just take a step back.
Yeah. That that would have likely saved 2 lives. But at the same time, you have to understand the moment where they're saying we don't let people who carjack get away. That sets a precedent that people can carjack and get away. At the same time, though, why didn't they do something like that? Or when he was boxed in at the traffic light, as you heard on the tapes, they said, block the intersection. Let's set up a cordon around it. You had a hostage. This is not an active shooter. These are not 2 people in the truck without a hostage. This is a hostage situation that could have been and should have been handled completely differently. You set up a perimeter, you get people evacuated out of their cars, and then you call in SWAT and snipers. I was a sniper on SWAT. It's what we're trained to do. And they weren't given the opportunity to do what they're trained to do to resolve this situation in a more appropriate manner.
The one officer, Lee, he, according to the report, fired 6 rounds. But in his first initial interview, he said he didn't even fire. That he didn't even shoot his weapon. But then it came out that his bullets were found in the victims. What do you make of that? I mean, do you think he was intentionally lying, or in the heat of the moment, could you actually think you didn't shoot but you did?
It's not uncommon at all. I was involved in a situation where the squad I was working with did a car stop on an on-ramp, and they approached a van, not a UPS van, but they approached the van. There was a gun displayed, and there were several shots fired, and the van drove away. One of the agents, who I knew very well, ran back to his car, said shots fired, and they started the chase. And they said, "Did you fire?" And he said, no, I didn't shoot anything. Well, yeah, he had. And he did not remember firing his weapon. So I think that's the level of physical and mental distress that you're in when shots are being fired all around you, and you know that some of them are coming your way. There is a fear level that kind of blocks out a lot of things. 6 shots seems a lot, but if I were on the jury, I certainly wouldn't think he was lying.
And it was around 20 officers who fired 221 rounds in 25 seconds, but it was only the officers, when they did the testing, that they figured out their bullets were inside the victims, that ended up getting charged with manslaughter. I mean, what do you think about that? Because I don't know. I mean, the other officers could have just as easily hit the victims too, it seems. It's not like they meant to hit the victim, hit the innocent bystanders.
Right. And what I would say there is, when you're in a situation like that, especially a car stop in traffic, it's really congested. And believe it or not, very few people will actually be able to see the shooter in that situation, because you're being blocked. Imagine yourself being in a crowd and saying, "You see that guy over there with the blue baseball cap?" Well, you're going to have to look around. You're not going to see him directly. So ironically, what that tells me, the bullets that were in the hijackers, the carjackers, were from the 4 that were also the ones who shot the victim, the hostage. So what that tells me is that they were in visual contact with a person with a gun. So those 4 are the ones who I think probably had the most justification for shooting. I want to know what the other 16 were shooting at, because none of their bullets ended up in the vehicle. Or at least remained in the vehicle or the shooter's body.
And the one bullet did you see the one on the car seat?
Yes, that was a casing.
Yeah, but
Uh,
still, it's alarming to see that, I mean, you realize it was
is,
such a busy intersection.
and what happens is, as you fire the gun ejects the round, the casing out of it. So if you're standing by somebody's window, you're going to get a lot of casings in their window. That's not dangerous. Except it burns you. I can remember on the firing line, it was a common thing to button your shirt up all the way, because the casing from the guy next to you would go down your shirt and blister you. But so that tells me that they were using that car likely as a cover and concealment. But then I'm thinking, do you want to use a car that has a baby seat in it as blocking bullets? Although, in the heat of the battle, you may just be advancing up and you're not looking in the cars that you're using to shield yourself.
And it was a battle. I mean, you can tell from all that video. I mean, it was really intense.
But and again, I'm not trying to defend the policy. I'm just saying, or the practice and what happened. I really would be just mortified if I had to investigate that. I don't think it rises to criminality.
So, and you explained this a little, but I'm just curious. If someone has a gun to a hostage's head, Do you have to move in? How is that decision made?
The decision is made as you have command of the situation. Who has command of the scene? And right there, it didn't appear that anybody had command of the scene. The problem is you had 4 jurisdictions there. They were operating probably on a mutual frequency, which is not their usual one. So understand this. Say I'm Miami-Dade and this guy's Pembroke Pines. We have different frequencies because we can't be blocking each other all day. You have a mutual aid frequency that everybody goes to so that you're all on the same frequency. You know what that does is cut out your department, and so you're on a different frequency. So they have to switch over to you. So it complicates control of the scene, if that makes any sense. And so basically what you were having is a situation that was evolving instantaneously, where gunfire had been already reported, and several times, in fact, been reported and verified. So these people have taken a hostage and are shooting at you. So they may have felt an exigent circumstance to stop this person from shooting randomly into traffic. At the same time, though, ideally, if the person wasn't shooting, and how do you tell at that point? There's guns going off everywhere. You would set up a perimeter and start talking the person out, or if you can't do that, bring in a couple snipers and solve the problem.
What do you make of the one officer's argument now with the stand your ground law in Florida? There's the one officer who's chose that as a route to try to fight this.
That's going to be pretty interesting. I've read through Florida's law. I've read through it. There's 38 states that have stand your ground laws. 32 of them, I think, are pure stand your ground like Florida's, and then 6 others, I think 6, maybe 8 others, are by court decision, saying the court ruled that you don't have to retreat. So the vast majority of states have this stand your ground law in one way or the other. As I'm reading the law, I never saw an indication that this was written by police officers or written for police officers. I mean, it talks about if you're in your home or if you're in your place of business. None of that really applies to police. But at the same time, it doesn't say this doesn't apply to police. The argument could be made on the other side that this was written by civilians. Police have higher levels of training and they know the situation better. They can understand the situation better and therefore are held to a higher standard. So this is going to be one of those things where it's going to establish precedent. It's going to establish where we go from here in the future. This is going to be a test case.
Yeah, we'll watch and see where it goes with the stand your ground, but also with the 4 officers facing those manslaughter charges. Steve, thank you so much for helping us break it down.
Thank you.